Hello everyone. I just went like, okay, I've started the recording and everything, and then realized I hadn't unmuted myself. Well, welcome. We are playing Dishonored still, but we're on the last game now. We're on Dishonored Death of the Outsider, which, is sort of DLC to Dishonored 2. It came out pretty quickly after that, but as a standalone game. And so yeah, that's what we're going to play today. Hello Ada, how's it going? You got one of the new emotes. Which new emotes? No, that's not a follower emote. Okay. Oh, you randomly unlocked one. Okay, yeah. Now I'm there. Okay, yeah, so good that those emotes are in the rotation as well. Yeah, I hope you've had a good week, everyone else who may or may not be watching as well. I've had a pretty decent week. It's been improved by me knowing that starting next Wednesday, I'll be off work until the new year, so I took all my remaining vacation days and stringed them together for a nice, relaxing year change period. I also bought myself a virtual conference ticket to the Chaos Congress, which is like a security researcher / hacker / retro hardware / all sorts of nerdy things conference. And yeah, they sold virtual tickets so you can watch their conference and support them as you do so. And so vacation. Oh baby, hi Fatty Two Bits, how's it going? Yep. Looking forward to that vacation. I guess that's no wait, you have a Oh, hi Mr. Gunny. Haven't seen you here before. Hello, welcome. Yeah, so that upcoming vacation is that vacation should have no big effect on streams. I think only Christmas I think Christmas Eve or Christmas Day is or the day after Christmas Day, like, is Sunday. So I probably won't be streaming then, we'll see. Have a look on Discord or on the schedule here on Twitch. I will update that accordingly. You actually got vacation days left over because your boss said you don't have to show up in the week around Christmas. Good. That's a nice luxury to have. When the company basically just says, oh, we're closing down over Christmas, it's fine. Yeah. So I'm I'm really happy that we're getting to Death of the Outsider now, starting that one, because as those of you who were here live will remember, those later on YouTube won't, I guess, because they can play it, watch it in the right order. But so for I started by playing Dishonored 2, then went back to Dishonored 1 and the Dishonored 1 DLC. And so this is, since I've tried, I don't think I've quite succeeded to avoid the big spoilers for Dishonored 2 while playing Dishonored 1. This is the first time I have the opportunity to actually talk about all the things from Dishonored 1 that had an effect on Dishonored 2. And that's really promising. Like, I like how all of that stuff tied in a little bit. Like, there were some things that people, when I was playing Dishonored 2, were pointing out, where they were saying, oh, this person about whom you just found a note, that's actually someone you meet in Dishonored 1 and things like that. And I didn't retroactively spot anyone like that, but I guess it's harder that way around, because if it's a big person in Dishonored 1 that is just mentioned in one side note in Dishonored 2, then you look at Dishonored 2's side note first and you go like, I don't know anything about this character, it's just a name that doesn't mean anything to you, that doesn't stick in your brain. So I didn't really catch those people or even remember who that was in Dishonored 1. But there were some nice surprises for me. One of them was, of course, that Billy Lurk. Like, before I even played Dishonored 2, I knew that Dishonored 1, that Dishonored Death of the Outsider existed, and that that Billy Lurk was the hero of that. So we'll be playing as Billy today. And the thing, or the protagonist, I'm not sure after what we learned about her in Dishonored 1's DLC, that I would necessarily call her a hero, but we'll see. And so, I knew that going in, but for example, I did not know that Delilah would actually already be in Dishonored 1's second DLC, The Brickmore Witches. So that was a nice surprise for me. Like, I kind of thought, okay, that's at least one of the witches, and then of course they said, like, Delilah was the first, the name Delilah was the first hint you got. So of course at that point, I remembered that that's the Delilah we know from Dishonored 2, but I couldn't really say much about her. And it's fascinating that to know that she already made an attempt to get the throne. And in some ways, in a much more insidious way, in Dishonored 2. In Dishonored 1, before we get to Dishonored 2, where of course she just straight out stages a takeover, what do we call it? Well, overthrowing the Empress is what she basically does. So, that was a nice little surprise to me. And of course, finding out that Billy was Dowd's right hand, and no pun intended if I'm looking at this picture, and that Billy was the one who betrayed him. That of course made it interesting. Of course, I think towards the end, before we were made certain that Billy was the one who had betrayed him, I kind of guessed it already and went like, Billy is way too prominent in this DLC to not be the traitor. Like, they did not introduce any other interesting major character that could have been the traitor. That, like, everyone got like 5 minutes of 5 minutes, just got a little bit of like one conversation of stream time or something, but they didn't do, or screen time actually, but they didn't do anything in particular where you would have thought that it would have any impact if they were a traitor. It needs to be someone you work with, someone you trust. So really, I think storytelling-wise, there should have been more of a misdirect. Like, I guess you would have needed a team, kind of like in Dishonored 1, the base game itself, where you had all these conspirators with you. And they would have needed to give you more like that. Like, make your assistants flesh them out a little more, and, show you more reliant on them, and have them, give you personal missions or something. Or at least, missions they care about specifically, so that you kind of, apart from just getting your objective done, just get a more specific connection to them as the player. And since that wasn't there, they telegraphed it a little bit that it had to be Billy. But of course there was still, and I liked that at least they did that. They went and like how she behaved in that moment was interesting. Because, like, there were several ways that could have gone. She could have just been the betrayer and have said, oh, I wanted your job. Delilah offered me to take you down, or to help me take you down, or something like that. And that's why I did it, or something like that. And yeah, we basically we didn't really we didn't get that. Instead, she turned around and said, you know what, I intended to betray you, but I realize that was a mistake. And that was a really interesting bit of character development that we also learned about in her logs in Dishonored 2 later. She mentioned a few things about her past. And of course that also made me more likely to let her live, which I eventually did. That was kind of a bit of out of game knowledge that, if I had freely played these games the first time, I don't know if I would have decided the same. In general, I like to be more lenient if the betrayer or whoever regrets what they did. So I think I would probably have left Billy live either way. But of course, since I knew there was this DLC, I kind of went, for this to fit as a longer story, I can't really kill her. But for example, with Dowd himself, he also regretted having killed the queen. the Empress, so it was kind of similar, but for me it was much closer, because like if I had played this freely, I would have probably gone, does he know that we're here? Is he trying to influence Corvo to let him live? But I guess we just knocked him out and it worked out fine. It was different than Havelock at the end of Dishonored 2, where he had killed his friends, and so I would have gone, stick him in the dock and save Emily, because that's the important thing, but he has to be punished. So that was never, like, an option I would have chosen, like, to say, okay, we'll just let you leave or something. Not only did you betray me, you betrayed your co-conspirators and killed them. And so, for one thing, you couldn't be trusted to not betray me, and we saw that basically, no matter what you did, eventually he would attack you. So, that was... although I think our canonical choice, because it's the one we did first, was that we snuck past him and saved Emily, and so I guess implicitly, since we didn't kill him, he ended up in prison. At least that's how I read that last story. Anyway, kind of a forgivable sin. With Billy, definitely. With Dowd, he seems like the kind of guy that should probably end up in prison if we were given that option. Just because he is an assassin. And he just kills for everyone. Whereas, as much as Corvo and even Emily kill people, they're kind of more focused on, it's more of a self-defense excuse. They don't, they've been illegitimately taken out of power or, framed for a murder they didn't do and have to somehow save their own lives. So while, in real life it doesn't make enough of a difference for the spree of killings we went on in the process of that game, I think they're more justified. And with Billy, it was... Dowd was an assassin himself, and Billy was his second in command, and you could tell from his logs that he kind of already knew that, Billy was kind of asking questions, really trying to feel out how he would behave in certain situations and things like that. So, at least in my head, Dowd kind of knew that Billy might be going after him, because that's just the world the two lived in. Right, the murder hobo defense. Yeah, kind of, yeah. Like for Emily and Corvo, kind of that's the best I can do, the murder hobo defense. But for like for Dowd himself, and even less so for Havelock, that doesn't really count. But Dowd kind of being the worst person of the two, I think totally has the right to say, yeah, Billy, that's the world we live in, that's the rules. And in the end, you didn't follow through with it. With overthrowing me, so you gave me the chance I needed to save myself. And so I'm giving you another chance as well. Because, you know, you made a mistake, but in our world, it's kind of a minor mistake, I guess. I mean, of course, if you thought it through logically, it's a much harder choice, because all these no-name assassins that got killed when the, what is it called? The Abbey of the Evermen, the, what's their name? I keep forgetting the name of the religious fanatics. Overseers. So yeah, where the, you know, all these no-name NPC assassins that the overseers killed were, of course, you know, compatriots, friends of Dowd. So, you know, since we never got to meet them, it was easier for me to just say, you know, to just treat them as mechanical NPCs and not really count them as deaths, and to forgive Billy. But if you thought this through as a real-world thing, it's like, Billy, do you know what you did? You killed all those friends of yours and mine. So yeah, that would have made it harder. But I love that we got to do all that, and I'm intrigued what will happen now in this DLC with Billy. I started like the campaign to test, you know, like that it works and records fine and things like that. I hope it works. I think it's a little heavier on my CPU, so if you feel that like the performance isn't there, then maybe let me know. Because yeah, I'm just trying. This is the first time I'm streaming this, and I think I got it working. But I'm not 100% sure. Like, I did a test recording, but streaming is a little different again, so it could be that just the amount of performance that I managed to get after OBS has had its CPU for actually encoding and streaming, that might be worse. Okay, so I guess this is a good point to get started before I say anything that I can only have known from that first moment. So let's make a new game. It's interesting, apparently when I got this game, I must have played like a little moment sometime half past midnight, apparently. In November 2017. This long is it took me 4 years to actually get around to playing this game. Okay, let's just reuse the save slot from the test. This will overwrite. Yes. I wouldn't really need to keep the first save slot, but I kind of like that it remembers the date that I first launched the game, so that's why I'm leaving that there. Okay, will be easy, that's enough. One other interesting thing is, if you remember, one of the choices we did is in the in Dishonored 2, in the mission where you switch between timelines, we actually saved that one mining baron from from being affected by Delilah's magic and stuff, and being made mad, basically. And that resulted in all sorts of changes, including that Billy Lurk, or Megan Foster, as we knew her back then, didn't get into a fight. And so she got her arm back. And her eye. Which I at first didn't quite notice. I went like, oh, like in my head, I just saw her and went like, in that scene you didn't really see her stump of an arm. I guess that was on the other side in the shadow where I couldn't see it or something. And then someone went like, no, that, like actually went to me, did you notice something? And I went, I think that what it was. I think that's how I remember the story. You people can go back and check. Or maybe you watched it a moment ago. Anyway, but so, and in this DLC, that's apparently the non-canonical ending. I'm a little bit sad. It would have been kind of nice. Like, this is don't get me wrong, this is an amazing visual. Like her having her arm stump, but having this bone hand thing is fascinating. And is a cool visual. And the eye, we've seen that in Terminator and in V and in many other shows, like having a alien or robot or whatever eye is always a cool thing. So, I love that look. It's okay. But I'm a bit sad that they didn't look at our save game from Dishonored 2 and went, hey, you saved her arm, so let's give her back her arm. But they did that for the DLC at least, and this being a new standalone game, I can kind of understand that it makes things a little more difficult. Especially, if you expect the game having to, like if you did a remaster or an update of Game 1, then suddenly you'd have to find a way to get Game 2 to read the new save games or whatever. So it adds a lot of knock-on consequences from a development point of view if you have the second part read the save game of the first one. On the other hand, they could have, done like a little intro movie or something where you just get to, where you get to say, hey, I've played the previous game, and then they'll just ask you, what decisions did you make in these spots or something like that. But okay, it's fine, I can live with it. I wonder, you can set custom here. So we could go with easy, free saves, quick access view, slow time, real time, okay. Enemy perception slower, enemy overhead reduced. I'm kind of tempted to actually go with a custom thing here. Although I think I'll just leave it at easy. I'm tempted to kind of turn up some of this, but no, we're going for story. We're sticking to our, since we've played all the others this way as well. one last fight. You're on the lookout for your old mentor, Dowd, whom you've not seen in 15 years. Rumors speak of a clandestine boxing club that uses black magic and bone charms on the Albarca baths. Could he be there? Okay, this is interesting. So I guess we're going after Dowd. So this is basically a bit of a sequel to the Dishonored 1 DLC. Like, Megan was... She was basically just like your chauffeur, your driver in Dishonored 2. So, Billy Lurk. You just, like, in the end, you kind of got a bit of a background and kind of found out in the end that her real name is Billy Lurk. But that's about it. So, yeah, I had a point here, but I don't remember. Yeah, so that's why in Dishonored 2, Megan didn't really get too much to do. Like, you got to see her, but she was basically, like, what was his name? Like the guy who drove your boat in the first part, basically. A sympathetic NPC who kind of helps you out a little bit, but that's it. Not a major part of the story.
My name is Billy Lurk, though there aren't many people who remember. For years, I stayed hidden, captain of a ship called the Dreadful Whale. I was a smuggler, fence, and maybe traitor, depending on who you ask. Our names are always overshadowed by the words whispered after them. If you hide from the world long enough, eventually nobody remembers you. Then you're alone, living with your choices. But I could never forget the man who pulled me up from nothing. Dowd, the Knife of Dunwall. A name called out by the desperate or the dying. The assassin who ended one Empress and saved another. Shame burns inside you for a long time. When I betrayed Dowd, he let me live. I left Dunwall and my own name behind. For years, I wondered if I was worth forgiving. For years, I laughed at myself for even wanting a killer's forgiveness. Sometimes mercy cuts deeper than any knife. Now I know that forgiving is something you do for yourself as much as for the people who hurt you. I know Dowd is in Karnaca, and I'm going to find him. Every night for weeks, the same terrifying dream. A street fight, my arm dead and lying in the gutter, my eye gouged out by a Grand Guard sword. But when I wake up, they still hurt for hours. Gives me the creeps. This always brought me a little comfort. You stole this for me, didn't you, Deirdre? Now it's all I have left of you. Another relic from the old days. Still holds an edge, at least. That boxing club in the Albarca Baths is my last lead. Dowd has to be there.
Oh, that's something in the Dishonored 1 DLC, Knife of Dunwall, that was kind of interesting. Like, if you came in, the only way you'd seen Billy for most of the game is in these whalers' clothes that the gang wears. You only hear her voice, and I think at the end, when she tells you, she betrayed you and she regrets it, then she takes off her mask. So you didn't really get a good look at her. And I think that that was good for the second game. Or for this game, actually. No, actually for the second game. Because in the second game they kind of had some freedom how Billy has to look, because it was a newer engine, so you had more detail. There will be cutscenes where you get close-ups of her and like the cover shot and things like that, where in this moment it was just, I think it was a cutscene when she tells you, but she's comparatively small in that cutscene, and that engine didn't have too detailed of a face texture. And budget-wise, you'd probably not invest too much into designing a face that you only get to see in like one cutscene. So they had a lot of freedom, and I think that's actually, from a game development point, I think that's a clever thing to do. If you have a character in a game where you think they have they're kind of important and might be worth picking up later, if you keep them like you need to dig into their personality and something like that, because otherwise, first, they wouldn't be a character, they would just be an NPC, a plot device. But still, it helps to leave a few things not as precisely defined, in case you want to bring them back and need a little more freedom to, maybe make the character fit whatever story you're doing. Of course, that's kind of, why would you use the character if it didn't fit the story? So maybe that's a bad conclusion I have here. I guess, halfway through talking, I kind of realized, oh wait, at the end, I think she takes off her mask, and you see her face. And so before that, I first thought, oh, the whole time you only saw her in her mask, and the first time you see her face is in Dishonored 2, where they probably already knew how that she would be the protagonist of Death of the Outsider. And so they designed her with, she's the protagonist in mind. In a game, your protagonist always has to be a better design. And a different design. Like, there are different things you focus on. Like, one thing is, of course, if you have a protagonist in your game, it needs to be a distinct and unique visual, so that if you put them on the cover or in merchandising or whatever, that people will look at them and know, this is the character I'll be playing. This is my place in the world if I play that game. The protagonist has to sell the game a lot more. Whereas if there's a random NPC, they can be much more simple and one note, and specific to their scene. And they have to be distinguishable from any other characters. So like, you want people to know, okay, Billy is a whaler. And from the voice, choosing a woman for the voice means like the other whaler gang member that you meet in the second DLC after Billy is gone, that's a man, and that's really all you need for them to be useful in the function they have in that DLC. Which is, they guide you through the stories and give you your next cue, or give you some context or intelligence that you might need to get through this mission. And that can't be told well by, found story bits here and there that you discover. or that they are afraid, like you'll get stuck completely on that game if you don't know this one bit. Like, if you don't even know which place you're supposed to break in or something, then you wouldn't be able to play the game right. And it would be pretty frustrating if you're just aimlessly running around. Okay, contracts. At any time, you can review a list of contracts from your journal. Press J to open the journal and go to Contracts. You can activate the markers on targets, and some additional hints are provided in the description. If you succeed at a contract, you will be rewarded with a good amount of coin and sometimes by a bone charm. Okay, so this is kind of a new thing. I'm not too eager about contracts. They, game design-wise, they feel a little bit like filler to me. We'll see, maybe it's just their way of giving me side quests that will actually tie into the greater story, or, maybe they just didn't have a reason for me to do a certain thing at a certain point. And so they went, well, if she's doing random contracts on the side to keep afloat, then she'll just, coincidentally stumble into that reason. Into that information or something that she needs. We'll see. Because, right now she seems... my guess is that Billy is alone. Not like Dowd, who had his gang, or what are the other ones? Like the boatsman. What was his name? I forgot his name. I'm such a horrible friend. Well, who helped Corvo. Did Emily have someone to help her? I don't think either, right? So I guess the Dishonored 2 games, both of them, kind of have your player characters more self-motivated, and so of course you need some way to get them to the right spots. Oh, right. Of course, Dishonored 2 had Megan. Billy Lurk as the person who told Emily in our case. Here, this is probably what you need to do next to, find out what's the deal with Delilah and things like that. Sir Conan guitar. Oh, and one more interesting thing. Whoops. That was wasteful. Yeah, but what you see is we still have both our arms. And I don't think this is related to the decision we made in the game. It could be. I don't know. We'll see. It feels, since we changed time, and she says she has this dream that she was missing her hand. It feels like... I don't know if that's an alternate open to if you had played the previous game, or if here we're actually chronologically before the moment where she loses her hand. And as soon... and during this mission, we end up experiencing the moment she loses her hand. So that will be interesting to find out. It could be that it's really a consequence of the previous game. That it just didn't tell me in any big way, hey, I picked up your save game. Because, alternate dialogue could be something like, oh, I still feel the pain in my hand even though I've got this weird replacement, you know? Like, it could be that the original, if you don't change time, the original intro is about phantom pain in limbs, and they kind of go, okay, if she still has her hand, then we just give her an outsider-induced memory of the things she remembers from the different timeline. Okay, we have a lot of stuff to look at here, so I guess get going. Oh, hi, Nostalgic Rhino. Didn't see you there. How's it going? Hope you're doing well on this nice, well, Sunday afternoon for me. I don't know what time zone you are in. And I'm going to leisurely explore this place now. So, Deirdre, we know from her logs in Dishonored 2 that I think that was her friend that she was on the street with, basically.
Is this what you would have looked like, my sweet Deirdre? I would have died soon after you, if it hadn't been for Dowd.
Yeah, she got, there was some coach that they almost got run over by, I think, and one of the guys in the coach came out and basically beat her to death, like some duke or whatever. Empress Emily Caldwin moves to heal fractured empire. So that's the consequence of Dishonored 2, I guess? Or is it before the start? Renovation projects in the Tower District are finally underway as the last funeral rites were performed for High Overseer Yul Kulan and the Brothers of the Faith who died in an attempt to retake Dunwall Tower from the now deposed usurper Delilah Copperspoon. So we know this is after Dishonored 2. The Abbey of the Everman has spent the last several months consecrating and interring the remains of the falling, while also removing dangerous and heretical objects from the Imperial Palace. With representatives from the Isles beside her, Empress Emily Caldwin issued a statement yesterday morning urging unity in the wake of this great tragedy. The Empire's strength is in diversity of thought and action. Working together, there is nothing we can accomplish. We are pleased to reassert our partnership with the sovereign nations of Morley, Serconus, and Tivia for our mutual peace and prosperity. Following these proceedings, several imperial proclamations have been issued, with the aim to restore trading networks and communication across the Isles. Communication across the Isles. Somehow my brain went communication access, and then it didn't continue like that. Several large-scale public works have been announced, with architectural firms in Serconus and Morley already competing for the commissions. Okay, this is interesting. So,
Her Imperial Highness is back on the throne. If she knew what I was doing now, she'd probably try me for treason.
But okay, that makes it much more likely. Oh, this is interesting. So I just complained needlessly. So this is actually the consequence of our action. We have both hands. It's just the startup screen had her with the artificial hand. Oh, this is cool. Okay. I'm sorry, Dishonored, Death of the Outsider developers. You did what I would have wanted. You were just too subtle about it. You didn't give me the whole spiel with, hey, do you want to select the previous save game? Or something like that. Sokolov establishes studio in Tivia. Renowned natural philosopher and painter Anton Sokolov returned to Tivia this week after years of retirement in Karnaca. Sokolov, whose inventions and technological marvels are famed throughout the Isles, was greeted with a fanfare and panoply due a national hero. A parade in his honor, culminated in a festival on Mastrov Square in Dabokwa, where Sokolov gave a brief speech announcing the establishment of his studio. When asked about his future plans, the inventor responded, "I've already done enough for several lifetimes." The inventor was overwhelmed by the infernal noise of the parade and left the celebration early. He gave no indication whether or not his studio will accept apprentices.
Good to see the old man made it up north. I was lucky to know him. I wonder what poor soul is dealing with him now.
That's nice. Like, you could tell from, like, the bits of story strewn around the dreadful whale, like, you know, notes in her diary and his, that they seem to have become friends, but you could also tell that he's just not an easy person to live with, and, you know, that he just keeps doing stuff that is annoying, so it totally makes sense that she'd go, yeah, who has to deal with him now? Okay, we basically, we know from her diary that this is the guitar owned by a musician that couldn't pay her. Okay, but there's no interaction or anything. I guess it's just a souvenir. I love this quote-unquote world map. I mean, it seems like if you try to estimate the scale, it seems to be the idea is roughly, I don't know, like somewhere between the size of the UK, which, you know, like, seems the natural assumption. So that's why I use this as an example. Because this game feels like, the story feels modeled on, like, Victorian, early Industrial Revolution England. And, like, a lot of the names, you know, Bristol or Bristol, Whitecliff, you know, a lot of the names feel very much like they could exist somewhere in Britain, Freyport, you know, but are kind of like one letter off. And also the rough shape is kind of like UK-ish. Like those, like a long stretched island. So, yeah, that works. But on the other hand, it feels like it's a little bit larger. And I don't really get... So we know that Dunwall is a fair-sized city. So, it could be that it's... I don't think it's quite as large as, like, the Mediterranean. Like, with all the associated kind of European and surrounding states. Don't know. So, but I guess it's a little bit larger. Industrial espionage, read. Okay, those are the contracts. You will receive your stipend at the end of the mission. Burn the White Hound. An eyeless hag stole my poor Milky. He's white as a whalebone, but riddled with disease. It breaks my old heart to ask this of you, but if you find my Milky, please put him out of his misery, and burn his remains. Save him from those cursed eyeless, and save Karnaka from another plague. Okay. Industrial espionage. Those thugs at the Albarca make potions and bone charms upstairs. Their liquor is vile, but it sells for good coin, and we're losing punters to them by the day. Bring us the rat liquor recipe before our brewery goes out of business, and make sure to destroy their stock while you're at it.
Burglary, spying, picking pockets. Dowd taught me more than just killing. It can keep me afloat. For now.
Okay. These, like, I guess they're kind of supposed to be, you know, hat holders and things. But it's really creepy that, like, they all have these teeth. Like, it really makes no sense. Like, I think the first time we saw this model, it was like in a doctor's shop or something, so you could go, yeah, it's some sort of, you know, medical model. But like for Billy to have it here kind of doesn't quite make sense. I mean, it does if you say, you know, like, it's her stand for, like, keeping hats and things like that. But I don't quite know why her hat stand would have teeth, apart from, of course, the obvious out-of-universe reason that the world of Dishonored is kind of supposed to make you feel unsafe and, you know, endangered, and is supposed to feel more, what would you say, martial? You know, like, it kind of makes sense from a set design standpoint to make you feel uncomfortable by having these teeth in, like, normal living quarters. Travel log. Forgiven. I wouldn't have blamed Emily for killing me then and there. Bring down an Empress and everything gets thrown into chaos. A lot of people got hurt. But it was worse than that, wasn't it? I helped kill her mother. That's 2 times I was spared, but at least I got to put it right. Is this how Dowd feels? Okay. I wonder, did I forget that I was given a choice to save Billy? I guess at some point she tells me what she did. But I'm not sure if we were then, like, given a clear choice to kill her, or if we would have just been able to, you know, like, right-click and stab her right then and there. I know we had a few occasions to pickpocket her, so I guess at some point we'd probably be able to kill her in the game. But the question is, does that lead to an immediate game over, or was sparing her an explicit decision that I just forgot about? That's 2 times I was spared, but at least I got to put it right. Is this how Dowd feels? My dreams are getting worse too, stronger. Sometimes I stare at my right arm like it shouldn't be there, and my head hurts like I'm blinded by blood. I started to write it all down just to keep a handle on it. 2 weeks until I'm back in Karnaca. The longest 2 weeks of my life. If I even make it. The engine is rattling bad. My old self again. It felt good to say the name. Even better to hear it. And now it's on every corner of Karnaca. Wanted. Billy Lurk. I've been sending out messages to my contacts in the city, following up on sightings and rumors. But nothing yet. I even listened to the rats. Sometimes they know things others don't, and their voices remind me so much of Deirdre. I found the old man's wanted poster in a trunk. Now I'm looking for Dowd, just like all of Dunwall was years ago. Hope I have more luck than they did. A long shot. One last lead, an underground boxing club of all places. Dowd could be fighting there. Maybe another dead end, but I have to be sure. I tried to pump out the engine room, but no use. My ship's dead in the water. Megan Foster would have been furious. But I'm not. I've got other things to care about now. Okay, that's cool. So I guess they're looking for her because someone she asked about Dowd realized who she was. Or maybe even because she had to use her name and the reputation that comes with it for them to even talk to her. There's another... Oh, they've... Okay, this is the same whiteboard, just turned around. Okay. That's a weird relayout, I guess? Yeah, that's still the kitchen. Who is that? Oh, that's the guy that would have taken her eye and arm, isn't it? Or is that supposed to be Dowd? Nah, I think it's the mining magnate. Sadly, it doesn't give me an interaction to actually see her, but I guess they became friends. That's cool. It's interesting how they modified this set. Like, this corner is basically the same. The junk in the back of this room is different. Like, it's emptier, I guess. Here they just blocked the door to the rest.
Engine is shot and half the ship's in an inch or more of seawater. These are the dreadful whale's last days.
So pessimistic. Alright, and she turned around the board by 90 degrees, so let's see what we can see here. Ah, that's the Dowd wanted poster. Yeah, he looks completely different. So that's definitely the other guy.
Everyone in Dunwall was afraid of him then, but not me.
That's how they met. Is I think she saw him take down some people from a distance and followed him. And, you know, him being a professional and her being a street kid, I guess he was aware what she was doing. And kind of, you know, went, okay, I'll figure out what she wants. But, yeah. But then, basically, he took her in.
That club is run by a gang that call themselves the Eyeless. They claim to fight using black magic. If that's true, then Dowd might be involved.
Okay, this is kind of a tenuous connection. I guess as we know. Because, like, we know that, you know, Corvo got abilities from the outsider. Emily got abilities from the outsider. Dowd got abilities from the outsider. Actually, in the other order. Dowd first, then Emily. And all of Dowd's friends, basically, like his gang, seem to have gotten abilities indirectly through him. So it doesn't have to be him, really. Oh, and that's the Yeah, Mark of the Outsider, the sign that everyone gets.
Dowd's had the mark of the outsider in his hand for as long as I've known him. I've gone through every gang-infested slum asking after this, and no one would tell me a thing.
Okay, and we don't have any abilities right now because we're away from Dowd, and we only got our abilities by proxy. Eyeless remain eyesore for our city. Is that the same thing? No, it isn't. Oh, cool, so something to read. I don't think we'll get to much gameplay in this first stream with me just like going, ooh, all this stuff to explore, all this lore. Eyeless remain eyesore for our city. 2 raids by the Grand Guard occurred last night, resulting in few arrests as investigations continue into the activities of the gang known as the Eyelists. Both raids were conducted on derelict warehouses in the Campo Sita dockyards. Several shipments of whalebone were found at both scenes, along with many carved talismans familiar on sailing ships. These trinkets, marked with strange insignias, were collected along with various unidentified powders, noxious plants, and vials of unknown liquid. Though these items add credence to rumors of black magic being practiced by the Eyeless, the Grand Guard has not called for overseer support. Roving Vice-Overseer Cardosa of the Abbey of the Everyman, when reached for comment, stressed the spiritual dangers of carved bone charms and, if found, to bring them directly to your nearest overseer outpost for inspection and disposal. He gave no further remarks on the Grand Guard's ongoing investigation. So I wonder, roving vice-overseer, does that mean he's just like an overseer that's kind of like the FBI, like not bound to a particular city? Or, well, on the other hand, we know that the overseer, the high overseer, I think is what he's called, just got killed at the end of Dishonored 2. We walked through like this alley where they were trying to storm Delilah's, the Dunwall Tower where Delilah was, and Delilah just poofed them all. We didn't actually see her do anything to them, but I guess she and her coven kind of took them down. So the question is this just like, does roving vice overseer just mean he's the, like the unofficial high overseer until they've, I don't know, elected or whatever they do a new high overseer? Is it a, what do you call it in English? Like in the, like acting high overseer. That's, I think, the phrase I was looking for. Could be that, Okay. Notes about Albarca baths. Went to see old Madge again. Traded some old whalebone and a bit of hair, not mine, for information. She's making charms for the Eyeless now. Good clients, pay regular. Left before Madge tried to pick my pocket. Okay, that's interesting. So she's not really a trustworthy person, I guess. Some witches from the Royal Conservatory joined the Eyeless. Powerless now. None from the Brigmore days who would remember me, at least. No reason to think they'll look twice if I go in like anyone else. Okay, that's interesting. So I guess they're reusing the NPC designs or something. But it says powerless now. But the question is that a mistake that Billy made when investigating? Or is that something that, will change through the game? So first we meet some... So the Royal Conservatory was where Delilah hung out in the end, if I remember correctly. So... But it also says none from the Brigmore days, because of course that was when Billy worked with Delilah to betray Dowd. So that's good. That means, at least on the Eyeless, it won't be, she won't be recognized yet. It could be that, we later meet the rest of the witches and they recognize Billy. That's totally an option. And it could also be that we end up, not finding them powerless at some point, like that they regain their powers or gain outsider abilities by using bone charms and stuff like that. But I guess it makes sense. So you need someone with the mark of the outsider. Those just get the abilities. And then like Dowd or Delilah, they can kind of forward these abilities to others in their group. And so the question is, how do these dark magic fights work? Is that maybe that they have one person, like Dowd, as a prisoner or something, whose abilities they can kind of leech off or something like that? Okay. Are these people just messing around, or is there something I'm not seeing? Think I lost my pocket knife. Madge? Curse that old woman. So the question is, will that come to bite us later? Or is that just, I thought I managed to leave before she tried to pick my pocket, but she actually did anyway. And so, maybe she has hair from us that shows up later. Can't know if Dowd is at the Albarca Baths until I go check it out for myself. Last lead I got. Reply from Isabel. Megan, you must be pretty desperate if you're writing to me about this. Yeah, I saw him. He set up a meeting to buy some of those funny explosives that fell off the back of a carriage a few months ago. I waited for him, but he never showed up. Sorry it can't be any more help. I haven't seen or heard from him since. Put me in a real bind. Isabel. Also, hey, you were kind not to mention it, but I didn't forget I still owe you that case of fig wine after what happened last time. Give me 2 more months. I swear I'll get it to you. I guess we asked Isabel about Dowd? So Dowd was still active in the area and then disappeared. So I don't know. I'm just digging interim. Yeah, that was the word. Thanks, Ada. Sorry, didn't see that there. So I wonder if, like, my digging out standard plot number 5, which is, a person with special magical powers is captured and used by others as a source of magic. If that's what we'll be going for here, that they've captured Dowd and we get to free him.
Full of secrets. If I have any clues about where Dowd is, it's because he let me find them.
Reply from Kitterick. Dearest Megan, what an intriguing message. Who's this then? An old lover? Forgive me, but he doesn't really seem your type. Interesting. So Kitterick doesn't seem to remember, or at least pretends not to remember, who Dowd is. I take it from this. So the question is, like, Dowd was, his face was plastered on the walls everywhere. I think even in Dishonored 2. So at some point he was enemy of the state #1. Or was he? I don't remember if he was still... if his wanted posters were still there in Dishonored 2. Could be that he wasn't. So if assuming it was just in Dishonored 1, then I guess it's been long enough for, like Billy Lurk said in her voiceover, that, you know, if you're away long enough, then people will forget. He doesn't really seem your type, but if you must, I heard a rumor a few months ago from some gentleman that a man looking like that has been spied with those bizarre eyelids. I filed that piece of gossip away just in case it was important. Lucky you. When are you coming back here? Make it soon. We miss you. We have some of that tobacco you like stored away, just in case you visit. Loving you always, Evie Kitterick. So I guess Kitterick was someone she had a fling with? And that explains, like, also, you know, like, why he'd first kind of get jealous and go like, oh, is that an old lover that you're looking for? We shall see, I guess. Reply from T. Billy, or Megan, or whatever you go by these days. I don't know anymore. It was easy to pretend we didn't know each other when you were Megan. We agreed to respect both our new lives and not dredge up bad memories. So what are you doing? Yeah, I saw him. 2 years ago, here in Karnaca. He even asked after you. I said I hadn't seen you since that night in the flooded district. I'm sure you know why I lied. He never stopped killing, you know. He's got the same old grudges. I just hope you're not one of them. Okay, that's interesting. So at the end of Dishonored 1, I don't know, did I think he would, you know, like, just hide somewhere and stop being an assassin? It kind of seemed like he would not go after, you know, like he would give up the killing because he had killed Jessamine. So, like, well, you know, stop working for others as assassins. But maybe he still goes after his old grudges. That makes sense, I guess. Okay, let's look. Oh, what is this? Albarca Baths. Let's see, can we... That's the Batista Mining District. We've been there in previous games. We haven't been down here. Addermire Institute, we've been there. Addermire Station. Yeah, I think we've been at Campo Seta in Dishonored 2. Point Abel. Oh, that's named after the old Duke, I guess. Aventa Station, Jindosh Mansion. We've been there, of course. Grand Circona Canal and Seta Canal. Syria Gardens. Doesn't ring a bell. Royal Conservatory. We've been there. Shinderay Peak. Scirocco Currents. So the mining district and Batista Overlook, I think these spots were where the time travel stuff happened. Interesting. Okay, so I think Campo Seta. I think we've been in that area. It could have been... No, I think the Batista Mining District was the area that was renamed, right? Or was it? It might be that they unrenamed this area or something, and that's why. Like, Campo Seta... It seemed a little weird and unfamiliar when I read it in the books and letters we found earlier. So I'm not 100% sure. It's close enough to Addermire Station that I think we have to have fought our way through here already. So that's why I'm a bit confused that the name seems so unfamiliar.
I've been searching for months. I know you're here, Dowd. Somewhere.
You know what? It kind of, Okay, and back behind those crates is where the living quarters where Sokolov was in the base game. So they really just cut all of that off. Abandoned letter to the Empress. Oh, we got money from Emily, I guess. Your Imperial Highness, thank you for the gift. While your generosity is... No. To Empress Emily Caldwin, I don't want your coin. No. Lady Emily, I can't take your coin after what I did. I'm trying to find a way to make peace. Dear Emily, I wish to do mend vest, seal hatch, bullets, whiskey. Okay, so I guess that's a way they made the shopping list more interesting. The Knife of Dunwall. Oh, that's interesting. Excerpt from a penny novel, so they actually know both their names. I didn't think that Billy Lurk was kind of that famous as his right hand that she would end up in a penny novel. Dowd stared at the blade. The plan had gone perfectly, even better than he could have hoped. In fact, the whole thing had been too easy. But now that was over, he felt hollow. And there was nothing in the world that could fill him again. He knew it with a certainty that scared him. Billy called from the next room. Boss? Leave me. He nudged the door closed before she could say anything else. He trusted her more than any of them, but he didn't feel like talking. Cleaning the blood from the blade, he studied the marks it made on the cloth. Royal blood. But it looked the same as any he had seen before. Weren't the high and mighty supposed to be filled with something different? Something better? Dowd was tired. No amount of blood could change the way he felt. He didn't drink as a general rule, and sex had never interested him. He felt a kind of exhaustion that couldn't be soothed away. A smile crept across his mouth. The Knife of Dunwall. Exhausted. And yet, something else. What was it he was feeling exactly? He'd looked into Jessamine Caldwin's eyes at the moment her life slipped away, and in that moment a thought had occurred to him. He'd made a mistake. He'd been misled. That kind of thinking was useless. She was just as dead, whether he regretted it or not. But he'd seen his true face reflected in her eyes. Seen himself for what he really was. Not a renowned assassin. Not some great shaper of history. Just another playing piece in an unknowable game. Interesting. Is that a bird? Yeah, I guess it is. With like a Well, either it's a mohawk or like a horn on its bill. Let's call this bird a hornbill. I think that actually exists. Probably looks nothing like this, but maybe that was the inspiration. That reminds me also, didn't I see a book somewhere earlier? Don't want to miss a book. I don't want to miss a thing. Okay, I'm not a good guitar player, I just learned. At least, when it comes to Zirconin guitars, I guess. By the way, you may remember that I was a little shocked recently because I had upgraded to Windows 11, it looked like everything went fine, and then during the stream I looked on my left screen and found that there's no clock there. Which, for, getting an idea of how far into a stream I am, is not quite the ideal situation, and I'm so used to it. And then I remembered that my Stream Deck actually has a function where you can make one of the keys a clock. And so I have that now, and I mean, it's an analog clock, it's a little hard to read. I just realized, oh, let me do that. You won't see much of that. Oh, interesting. I guess I have to tab out. Yeah, okay. Because it's an analog clock that actually shows the digital time as text as well. But out of habit, and because it's the default, I set it to be below at the bottom end of the clock. Which isn't that useful, because I'm looking at the Stream Deck from like slightly below, because it's like tilted like that towards me. And so now I've switched to the top so I can actually see the digital time as well. I mean, I can read an analog clock, but it's just a little bit faster for me to see, like how many minutes I still have if I see it in digital as well. It's like long term, I think I will be able to just see it from the analog clock once I've developed the habit, kind of like what my usual break times are. Alright, so we're out here now.
This station hasn't been used for years. Hiding the dreadful whale wasn't easy, but it's safe so far.
Oh, that's cool. Oh, and I don't think we have that with us. Like, remember during the intro, Billy held up like this weird, it looked like a heart with a rat on it that Deirdre had given her? And and that looked suspiciously like the heart that Corvo had, which, as you may remember, was Jessamine's heart, basically, prepared in some special outsider way. And Billy said something about listening to the rats. So I'm kind of wondering if this is similar, if that will be our ability to, you know, look for bone charms and things like that. Did they give your clock back? Not yet, no. I don't know if I mentioned that, but I tweeted, you know, like, oh, I finally found an annoyance about Windows 11, because everyone always keeps going like, oh god, a Windows update, everything will be broken. And for me, it seemed fine. And so, I tweeted, hey, it seems to be good for me, but I finally found one issue, and that was the missing clock. And immediately someone from the Windows team, who was on Twitter, and I don't know, got forwarded my tweet, I don't know, maybe they do a keyword search for missing clock, went, hey, there's this pre-release of the next update, or a soon to come update, that that says that has the clock back in. So I know it will be coming. I'm not going to install any pre-releases because, you know, this is not a development machine. This is where I relax and play. I'm not crazy enough to install beta software on this. I mean, on the other hand, the nice thing about games, of course, is that, you know, they're all on Steam or Origin or Epic or whatever, GOG. So all my save games are in the cloud. So it's not that painful. Like, I don't enjoy doing it. But if I had to just nuke this entire machine and restore the stuff that is on it, most of it, you know, would be very easy to recover, because it's just install that Game Store app and download the game again, and then it works. Maybe, you know, adjust the graphics settings. So the worst part would probably be OBS, which I back up occasionally, but, you know, in combination would still be a little bit of setting up, adjusting file paths, and things like that. Yeah, you mentioned that's what I meant. Yeah. So, yeah, I'll eventually be getting the clock back, but it'll take a while until the next update, or maybe the one after the next. I didn't actually quite check what schedule these are on. Oops. Huh. Get up here. Okay, she's actually blocked off the bridge, I guess. Yeah, okay, it's all locked. It's sad here. Yeah, and this is too high, I think. Bit disappointed, but maybe they will let me into these rooms later. It kind of seems that, you know, with Blink, these areas might be easier to reach. So maybe that's a form of level gating, where I can find some stuff and they can unlock areas of the ship. Or it could just be that they go, well, you know, Megan had that ship. We have to show people a reason why she's not on the ship anymore, but we have to start her out, like, and this is, you know, as good a place as any to start out in. Redress this a little and show that this at least used to be her base. And then whatever happens to us happens, I guess. Okay, so I guess... okay, there's stairs here. Okay, so all I did when testing is run around a bit out here, kind of to get a feel for the performance of the outside areas. So I guess we're good. Can I open that door? Doesn't look like it. Nope. All those hatches are locked. I could go for a swim here, I think. Okay. That doesn't look very interesting. Imagine having to... Oh, this is cool. Like the way you're swimming in here. It actually buoys you. Buoys? Boys? Whatever the verb, however the word is pronounced. Like you have some buoyancy here and kind of... You see the camera even tilt side to side, which is a nice touch. I think it's only a visual effect. Anything down here? Doesn't really look like they intend us to do anything here. Warning. Dangerous current. No swimming beyond this point. But I like this, that they... That not only can you swim, but that it's implemented like this. Like that you actually get a feel for how bad the current is. Okay, that's where we would have come through. And this is a bit of an improvised walkway. Okay. This falling water here, like if there was one thing, like the water in general is really good in this game. Like look at this, this is gorgeous. You know, it's not, you know, like you see that it's rendered, you see some glitches, things like that. But it's totally good enough and looks real. It's almost, you know, like Sea of Thieves level realism here. So that's totally fine. But the water that is spilling out somewhere, that isn't really convincing. I guess it's, you know, because it's like it only reaches until here and then it's kind of already foam. So like the reflectiveness should go down a little bit more. And then I think it would be more convincing. And it seems like it being this transparent up here, I don't know, it doesn't feel real to me. But, you know, nitpick just because the rest looks so good. And it's like, oh, that one got away from me. Apparently it's pronounced like boy. Yeah, I know that like buoyance and that this thing here, these swimming things, these are pronounced buoys, apparently. At least that's what I picked up somewhere. Maybe I just picked up a word from someone who was pronouncing it wrong and I didn't get the joke. I don't know. But yeah, I guess if you're buoyed, I guess that could kind of work. Good, thanks. That's the thing with English, you know. The noun is buoy. The verb is to be buoyed, or something like that. Which, like, you need to be able to tell apart the noun and the verb. Because in some spots it will otherwise get misleading. But on the other hand, these actually work mostly. This feels more real. I guess this bend of water should actually be shorter. Like, should probably stop right here. So the transition between the almost steam of the falling water and the bulk of the water coming out here, that's the main problem here. Yeah, but since English has so many words that are spelled the same and pronounced completely differently, it's a bit annoying. What's here? Okay, I guess here is can't get up. I guess this is can't get there from here. Yeah. It just won't even take my jump. I guess there's a spot where I'm actually walking. I like these little sounds they recorded to make it feel a little more real when you get out of the water. And things like that.
What can you tell me today, my little gutter friends?
Rat whispers. Okay, that's what the heart is for. Rat whispers. Press F to hear the thoughts of the rats. These little creatures whisper to one another, exchanging information about what is going on in the streets and basements from their point of view. Their mutterings are often cryptic, but sometimes they can give useful clues. I have no idea how they'll do this, but I'm hoping that it'll be kind of, weird. I kind of like, if you know the game Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. It's based on the Vampire the Masquerade tabletop game. And if you know that game, then you know, there is a computer RPG from, I think it's by Obsidian, so a game studio that we've seen a lot of great stuff from, among others The Outer Worlds, that we've played on this channel. And that game has some really specific RPG things, like you pick a class at the start of the game, and a lot of dialogue changes depending on your class, or a lot in the game. For example, there is one very kind of like hoity-toity aristocratic vampire class or clan in this case, I guess, but they are the classes that you pick gameplay-wise. And in the game, you can drink blood from rats as a last resort if no humans are nearby. And if you pick that high and mighty vampire class, they will drink it, but they will puke afterwards. So I'm not sure if that's just an extra animation and maybe getting a little less blood, or getting less benefit from rats, so more of a roleplay thing, or if that actually means you are not at all able to feed from rats. But they have lots of fun details like that relating to your class, which is always great in an RPG, because, it makes replayability as different classes more fun. And one detail that they have is there is this one class called the Malkavians that are kind of crazy. They have like a second personality that they get from being bitten and being turned into vampires. And so they have like a completely different set of dialogue choices, or a significantly different, at least, maybe not completely. But a lot of the things your character will say as a Malkavian are weirdly circumscribed things. Like, instead of can you tell me about this topic, they will say things like, can I drill into the mushy bits of your brain, or something like that, And, going through the game, you pretty quickly get an idea for what these phrases mean. But it's just such a poetic and weird way of phrasing all these things, and it's really impressive. And I'm kind of hoping that the rats here will kind of be like that as well, whether that we will have some, like rat-specific terms and misunderstood ways of interpreting what humans are doing that we will have to figure out. That would be real fun. And, would bring a smile to my face if they say something funny. So we'll see. Or if it's... yeah, it depends. Like, if you know the heart that we had in Dishonored 2, that was more like, more like high poetic. Oh, the pain the people in this town suffer. Would they have suffered if I had not died? Or something like that, The Malkavians are much funnier than that, and much less melodramatic. And much less, like taking themselves too seriously. So that would be a fun change of pace in this game. Okay, so let's see. Is it just pressing F? Okay, it isn't. So how do I trigger this ability? Okay, and she only has bone charms. I see no abilities. That's interesting. So I guess we will not get Blink. Or they've just designed it so these items will move closer together and the other one will pop up. We'll see it, I guess. But I still don't know. Ah, now I can listen.
The friend hears us, one of us. But ugly and big, still friend.
I like that, yeah. It's a bit more melodramatic, but it has a sense of humor about it. But ugly and big, but still, friend. One of us.
She fed us times, tossed us grains and crumbs. Loud voices came, metal flashed, more blood and floods on the floor. Our first feast, we wrap her up. Follow the sea set, climb ropes up, hide inside dark boat belly. Wood rocks, water flows, salt taste on fur, new homes press. Salt drips down lies, chewing burns us, fire from inside, scent of heat and death, dangerous food.
Okay, that was basically Do not chew on power cables in Rat. I love that. That's cool. Yeah.
Deep in the water, and a fish bite as we swim. Careful, careful. Watch for fins, watch for black biting mouths. Flee small places when the water comes. Flee low places. Drip, drip, drip fills up street. Things that climb up to new danger.
Okay, I didn't quite pay attention. Was it? Flee small places when the water comes. Flee the low places. Okay. So it's just like the boat is running full.
Smell that? Scary, scary, in a hurry. Garbage, garbage, garbage. Scary, scary, in a hurry.
Okay, I think we've got it all. Oh, those are cute. I love that. I hope they've recorded a lot of rat dialogue, and I hope I remember to talk to them. Like with the heart, since in many places it didn't have anything special to say, I forgot to actually go through and trigger all these thoughts from Jessamine that you could hear. So I'm kind of hoping that we get, that I remember it more. Basically, whenever I arrive at a new place, I should have tried out the heart in my previous playthroughs. Okay, none of these work. Danger. High voltage. Wasn't there a song that had that line? Okay. I guess here goes nothing. Go to the Albarca baths, stay at the Dreadful Whale. Well, let's go for a bath. Can you believe it? I spent all this time at the first location. One last fight. You're on the lookout for your old mentor, Dowd, whom you've not seen in 15 years. Rumors speak of a clandestine boxing club that uses black magic and bone charms at the Albarca Baths. Hard to pronounce. Could he be there? Rat whispers. These little creatures' thoughts can sometimes provide useful clues about your surroundings and current mission. Okay, I think this is a good point to end the stream. So take a break. And we'll be right back in about 5 minutes. I know, like, it wasn't really a first mission yet. A lot of walking around and chatting. But stay tuned. We'll be right back.